and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the final vlog of March. We have officially reached the last week of March, and oh my, do I have a lot to get through this week. So, here's where I'm at with my Phase 10 TBR. I currently have 5 books left with 7 days. So, I have started the Women of the Copper Country. I am on page 60. So, I'm enjoying this. I'm making progress in this. I feel confident I'm going to finish this. This follows basically a mining town, and it's like 1913, and our main protagonist is Annie, who is the wife of one of the miners, and she's really tired of seeing all of the men in their families risking their lives to barely make ends meet, and I think she's going to cause a storm. We're kind of going to get to see how that plays out. I'm enjoying this so far. Last night before bed, I started Orphan 11. I'm on page 26, so only a little bit of progress, and we're following 4 orphans who have just run away from an orphanage. So we're going to see how that goes. Our main character is Lucy, and she does not speak, though we don't quite know why, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I have started Death of the Party, which was my highest rated, or Death at the Party, something like that. And this is a cozy mystery, and I'm about 60 pages in, so a little bit of progress there, which would leave me with Stolen Time as a YA, I think, or sci-fi? Sci-fi. The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I just realized I actually have 6 books I need to read. Oof. And What the River Knows, which I had started, and I'm on page 38, so I don't know. We're going to see what I can get done today and tomorrow, because I will be filming this, I think, on Wednesday, and that will determine whether I put a punishment or a reward on the board, because it's going to depend on how much of this I get through in the next 2 days. For my other readathons, of which I have many. So let's start with Romathon. I feel like I'm doing really, really well in that, though most of my points are going to defend our team as opposed to attack other teams, because the prompts just work better with the books I'm reading to defend us. So I don't really have any set goals there. And then for my Greek Godathon TBR, I need to read The Women of the Copper County for element in the title. And I need to read The Untold Stories, and I don't remember what the prompt was. I'll put it on the screen here. But this is, I know, the other book I need to read. So, once I read these, I will have finished my entire Greek Godathon TBR, and then if I have time, anything else I read, I can redo some of the prompts, so it'll all depend. For my Phase Out Your TBR, I have Death of the Party, which is highest rated. I have Stolen Time, and I have Crowfall. So we'll see if I can get to that. And then for my middle grade March TBR, I'm down to Sweep, which is a book I felt I missed out on, and The Mona Lisa Vanishes, which is also my nonfiction of the month, but is the group pick. So that is basically going to be my focus for the next week, are those. If I have time, I still have my series to continue that came out of this lovely sucker. So I read The Vanderbeekers. I have The Extremely High Tide, which will go very fast. And then I have Gunshots and Girlfriends, which I've been dreading because I remember not liking the first book. And it's an ebook, and I've read a lot of ebooks this month, so that one is probably going to get pushed back to April, and there's a very good chance I DNF it. So that's where I'm at. That is going to be my focus for this week, is trying to complete all of the books on my readathon TBR, and if I do, I have a handful of books that I could read that I would like to get to. So we're going to see how it goes. I've sprinted the last 2 nights, and that massively helped keep me focused, so I may end up doing that as much as I can this week. We'll see how it goes, but for now, I'm going to go so that I can figure out what I want to read and how I want to go about it, and I will check back in with you in a few days to give you an update on how I'm doing. officially April, and I have not checked in once this week. I just didn't have the spoons for it. Though I was live sprinting pretty much every day last week, and that's why I wasn't capable of sitting down and filming this, and because chit-chatting with people on camera is very different than sitting down and trying to talk through what I'm reading in a logical way so that you understand what I'm talking about. But I had a very good end of March, and I did finish my TBR, which was my main goal. I'm going to mention them in the middle of the book, and that's Demon Copperhead. This is a bit of a David Copperfield retelling, and I'm on page 138. I'm liking it so far, and I'm curious to see where Demon goes from where he's at right now. So we'll see. I don't have any strong thoughts about it right now. It's feeling 3.75 maybe, but we'll see. As for what I finished, first I finished Stolen Time, and this is a YA sci-fi. I gave it 4.5 stars. This was a reread. And in this one, we're following Dorothy, who is in Seattle in 1913. And she's being forced into this marriage that she doesn't want to commit to. And ends up running away from the wedding and bumps into Ash. And she sneaks aboard Ash's, what she believes to be plane, but is actually a ship. Because Ash is from Seattle in 2077. And when she gets off the ship, she finds out she's in the future. And that things are very, very different here than they were in 1913. And we kind of follow along with their stories from there. So that's where we're at. And Dorothy is trying to adapt to the future. And Ash is trying to avoid a future that he's seen in glimpses. And we kind of go from there. I really enjoy this book. I'm so happy that I can finally finish the series. Because like I said, I read this 2018 or 2019. And I did not have access to the next 2 books. But I own them now. So I should be able to complete the series. And I'm very, very excited to continue on with it. Because I really enjoyed the journey with this. And trying to piece together what was going on and seeing Dorothy adapt to the future and learning more about how the future came to be. So very much looking forward to continuing this series. Then I finished The Women of the Copper Country, and I gave this 4.25 stars. This follows our main character of Annie. She lives in the Copper Country. Her husband works in the copper mines, and we're basically in this mining town. And it's July 1913, and Annie is tired of seeing the men of their town die in these mines due to unsafe working conditions while barely making ends meet. So she starts to organize like strikes and unions and stuff like that. And we kind of see how that shakes up the mining town. I was very intrigued in this. It was not like a brand new favorite or anything, but it kept me invested. And I really like how everything kind of wrapped up. I like the way the author incorporated details that really happened into the story. And like, I didn't know any of this was a thing at the end. So it was really interesting realizing that this was based on some true events. I liked seeing them struggle with the idea of unionizing and how hard that was back then, and wondering who you could trust and who was really on your side and the divides that it would cause. I really liked Annie as a character and liked getting to spend time with her. So I could see myself reading more from this author in the future because I did enjoy my time with this one. Then I read What the River Knows, and I gave this 4.5 stars. So this is a historical fiction with a bit of mystery and a bit of fantasy and a bit of romance. So it's kind of got a little bit of everything. And we're following Inez. And her parents are archaeologists, and they end up dying. And she's in Buenos Aires with her aunt. And she goes to Egypt because she wants to find out what happened to her parents, and meets a guy there who works for her uncle, who is also an archaeologist, and realizes there's a lot more going on surrounding her parents' death than she thought, and starts to kind of dig into that and try to figure out what really happened to him because she's not sure that she buys the story. This is a duology, and man, do I need the second part because the ending of this was wild. Just wild. I really, really enjoyed my read of this. I enjoy getting to be in Egypt with her and getting to see this time period in Egypt because I've always really liked ancient Egypt. So it was interesting getting to see her see some of the relics from Egypt's past. I really liked her relationship with Whit, which is the guy that works for her uncle, and how that kind of progresses throughout the story. I like seeing her relationship with her uncle and how that one progresses because there's a lot of things that Inez doesn't know. And it is interesting seeing her start to put the pieces together about what's really going on in Egypt and what her parents were up to. And there were several massive twists in this that I did not see coming. So I'm very, very invested in this and cannot wait for book 2 so I can find out, like, the end of the story. Then I read The Van de Beekers on the Road, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This is the 6th book in the Van de Beekers series, and we're following the kids on a road trip. And let me tell you, these 5 on a road trip is hilarious. They of course get up to all sorts of shenanigans. I again love the family bonds that we see between them, and it's really, really displayed in this one just how important family is to this group. I love getting to see the different locations that they visit and how the road trip does not go smoothly and how they handle the bumps in the road that they experience. I just really, really love this series, and I'm very sad because the next book is the last, which means I get to finish the series, and I'm going to miss spending time with these kids because they are just an amazing little group of characters, and it has so much I love about it with, like, the family vibes, and yeah, curious to see how things wrap up. So very much enjoyed this one. Then I read Orphan 11, and I gave this 5 stars. So this follows a group of orphans: Lucy, Doris, Eugene, and Nico. And they end up running away from an orphanage and ending up with a circus. And they're trying to earn their place in a circus by getting an apprenticeship. Our main character, the only POV we get though, is Lucy. And Lucy struggles because Lucy doesn't speak. And in this circus, you need to be able to talk because if there's an emergency, you need to be able to communicate that with the other performers. And this is a historical fiction. It takes place in 1939. So you have circus performers who can't read, so it's not like Lucy can write notes to them like she has her friends that she escaped the orphanage with. And it's dangerous. And you very much, in my opinion, understand where Lucy's coming from being in Lucy's head of feeling like she can do this without talking, but you also understand where the adults are coming from with the idea of this is dangerous because you have people doing, you know, the acrobatic acts, and there's live animals, and like I said, you need to be able to communicate if there's an emergency, and if somebody can't read, she can't write a note, and it creates an issue because Lucy has to figure out a way to convince the circus that she will be a valuable asset while still not being able to kind of maintain the very basic rules that they want, which is her being able to warn others of danger. And I really, really enjoy this. I love the relationship between the 4 kids and how that changes throughout the book because that is a big part of the story. I like exploring Lucy and how she ended up being mute and why she doesn't want to talk. I love getting to learn more about the circus and seeing the environment there and getting to see how each of them starts to break off and find their own places to fit in. And I really love seeing Lucy work really hard to find her place in this circus and find a way to make them believe that she can contribute despite being mute. And it's just a really, really lovely book. I really, really enjoyed my time with it. It's got that kind of found family aspect with the circus. And I don't know, it just had everything I love in a book and then some. So I highly, highly recommend this one. Then, for highest rated, I read The Death of the Party, and I gave it 1 star. So originally, when I finished, I gave it 3.25. And then I decided that I didn't like that. So this follows a woman. I'm not going to remember her name, and it's an ebook, so I can't look it up. So we follow this woman who is back in this town she grew up in to like 4th grade. Then her family moved away, and now she's back there because that's where her aunt lived. Her aunt died, left her the house, and we find out very quickly that she had an issue with her fiance, who was scummy, and was kind of down on her luck. It caused her to kind of have to uproot her entire life, and now she's working as a journalist for the local paper. And so, of course, she's reporting on the murder of the book, which is a guy named Barry, who's kind of the high school quarterback turned owns half the town kind of guy. And he ends up being found dead in his hot tub, I believe, presumed drowned. And she starts to kind of get involved with looking into the murder as a journalist trying to find some scoops. So my problems with this book. there were some lines that made me extremely uncomfortable while I was reading them, and I wasn't sure whether I was reading them wrong. But I consulted a friend, and that friend said, yeah, these make me uncomfy too. So that was after I finished the book. I thought about it some more, and I had talked it over with my mom, and even she was like, I don't know about these. Those are a little questionable. And then I sent them to my friend, and my friend was like, yeah, I don't like that. So that knocked it down some more. But then my thing with cozy mysteries, you should be able in hindsight to put the pieces together. All of the pieces should be there for the reader to figure it out. The job of the author is to give you enough clues that you're never quite certain who they're pointing to, because there needs to be red herrings. In this one, at the very end of the book, when they're piecing everything together, our main character says, I noticed this thing happened, and this is how I put the pieces together that this person was involved. And I did not remember ever seeing that. I've looked back. I cannot find that thing that she says she did in the book, which to me says it happened off page. And if it happened off page, how am I supposed to put the pieces together? So that's where I'm at. That between the uncomfiness and the fact that I legitimately have no idea how I'm supposed to solve the mystery, because I cannot find where in this book the piece is that this main character used to put the pieces together, means that it's not a series for me, and I don't intend to read from the author again because of the uncomfiness of some of the lines. I don't know if they were meant to be uncomfy, but they did make me very uncomfortable. So I just don't think it's an author for me, and I'm gonna move on now because I'm so done with that. And then the last book I finished, which I spent all of the 31st reading on sprints, was The Women. And this was the last book I had to finish for my Phase 10 TBR, and I gave this 4 stars. So this follows Frankie, right? Frankie. And she ends up joining the army to be a nurse during the Vietnam War. And we see her go over to Vietnam, treating injured people and trying to save as many lives as she can. And it is brutal. This book does not shy away from the brutality that was happening over there and the realism of how horrific it was to be a doctor or a nurse over in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. We then see her come home, and we see what is happening in the United States, because at the time, there came a point during the Vietnam War where a lot of United States citizens wanted nothing to do with it and thought it was horrid, and did not treat the troops who came home very well. And we get to see her trying to acclimate being home, and how all of that kind of plays out, and then kind of the aftermath of her dealing with her time in Vietnam. And there were things I really, really liked about this book. I really liked seeing her time in Vietnam. I liked getting a glimpse at what that was like and feeling like I was there and understanding the emotions that were going through the people who were there, from the perspective of not the fighters, but the people trying to save lives and put people back together. I was interested when she came home because I had very little knowledge of the Vietnam War. It's not something I ever really studied much, so I didn't realize just how tricky it was to kind of come back and deal with the aftermath of that. I thought it was fascinating to hear about these women, because the whole idea is there were tons of women who contributed to protecting our troops and stuff like that, and taking care of the injured, and they just weren't talked about. So it was interesting getting to see the perspective of a woman and how they were treated when they came home, because it was different than the men, for sure. And it felt like it was going to get a 4.5, and then some things happened. And these things made me dock it 0.5 star, because I did not like those things. They kind of brought down my enjoyment, and maybe it is realistic. Maybe this is what would have happened, but I did not like the way those things played out, so it brought down my enjoyment of the book a little bit. But like every Kristen Hanna, it did have a moment that made me cry. So 4 stars, not my favorite Kristen Hanna, but I did enjoy it, and I liked that it was on a time period I know very little about. So there you have it. That's my week. I feel like that was a very successful week. It was a very long week as well. I now have 2 whole Billy bookcases in my room, so I spent time building those. I don't know if I did that all this week, but I definitely built at least one this week, and that ate into a little bit of reading time, but using sprints, I managed to get through my entire TBR, and that was my goal. So I'm fairly happy with that. All in all, a decent reading week. Now to keep that momentum into April. But that will be in next week's vlog. That being said, that's it for this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me emojis that have something to do with time. So hourglass, clocks, etc. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!